It has been 4 months since we last talked to you here, but we are back. VinCon is back with a new logo, new graphics, and a new chapter of our podcast here. As today we're going to be bringing you our top 10 fantasy football quarterbacks for 2025. That's right. We are talking fantasy football now. This is kind of a new thing we're doing here on VinCon Sports Talk in 2025. We're going to have a ton of fantasy content coming your way. And it is really glad to be back here talking to you. My name is Vinny. My partner is my good friend, Connor Swanson. Connor, we are back. How are we doing today?
That the fans don't understand how we're feeling right now. Okay, we first of all we got on here I think around a little
6
after
o'clock.
6 o'clock. Let's just say 6 o'clock. Started getting on here, started working through some things. Thought we were going to be good to start streaming at like 6:30, right? Just take a little bit of setup and we're good to go. Well, turns out we weren't ready to start streaming until 8 or recording, right? 8 o'clock. So two
Yeah.
hours we spent trying to figure things out, working through all the kinks there, and then we just recorded this whole episode. Uh, Little did I know that the recording had gone out, so
Yeah.
we lost that, lost all the footage from that. So this is take two after 40 minutes of talking about all of this. It's been a long day, but Vinny, we're here. We're gonna
We
talk
are
about it.
here.
I am still
Yeah.
fired up. Okay, we're talking about the NFL. A little less than 2 months to go.
Still. Yeah.
Football at the end of this month, July 31st. Chargers Lions Hall of Fame game. I'm fired up, man. It's good to be
Yeah.
back.
Let's do it. Hey, it's take two, man, but we are going to hold the same excitement as we did in take one. We're talking fantasy football. And as I mentioned, fantasy football is going to be kind of our new thing here on VinCon Sports Talk. And a ton of new things here. We have a YouTube channel now. We have graphics. We have our faces. I know we played around with the visuals during the March Madness episode a little bit, but we're hoping to get a little more advanced with it now. So um, before you start this episode, be sure to follow us on Instagram, follow us on X/Twitter, whatever you call it, TikTok, and YouTube, because that is where all our episodes will be alongside Spotify for the audio version, as always. So, Connor, without further ado, why don't we jump into our top 10 fantasy football quarterbacks for 2025? I will say before we start, this is a full PPR ranking. So all of our rankings will be under full PPR. And I'll say this is a fantasy football ranking, not a general ranking of quarterbacks. We're looking at things through a fantasy football lens while we rank the
Yep.
positions.
It's a
So
big
let's jump into
disclaimer.
it, Connor.
It's a big disclaimer because
Huge.
sometimes people get it mixed up and they're like, "Whoa, that guy should not be out there. He's not one of the best quarterbacks." We're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah,
pump the brakes a little bit. We're talking about fantasy. Remember
right.
that."
We're talking about fantasy, and let me tell you, I'm excited because we love fantasy football. Fantasy football is such a big part of our sports culture nowadays. So let's jump right into it. Let's get it going.
Let's get
Our
it going,
fantasy.
man. All right, as you can see, all right, my list is going to be on the left. Vinny, yours is going to be on the right. We're gonna go 10 through 1, starting with our 10th ranked. Obviously, moving our way up. Um, Starting things off, it's going to be me. Okay. Coming in at my number 10 spot, it's going to be the Arizona Cardinals starting quarterback, Kyler Murray. All right. When you talk about fantasy quarterbacks, everyone is looking for that elite rushing upside. Kyler Murray brings that to you on a silver platter. I do believe the offense is also moving in sort of an upwards trajectory, kind of an inconsistent season a year ago, but we have Marvin Harrison Jr. going into a sophomore year. I think he's going to take a step forward. Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends in the league. I think he continues his elite performance that we saw a year ago. And I do think if Kyler Murray can stay healthy, which has been a big question mark for him, I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback this upcoming season.
Yeah, I like Kyler Murray this year a lot. You will see he is on my list a little bit later on. But coming in on my number 10, we have the Los Angeles Chargers quarterback, Justin Herbert. And in my opinion, Justin Herbert is a great option if you're looking for a value play in your fantasy football draft this year. The Chargers quarterback is very consistent. He's very talented. He's had a really good career so far. If we're talking normal football, he obviously hasn't done what he's wanted to do in his career in terms of playoffs and stuff, but he's been a solid fantasy quarterback. He was number 11 last year. So in a 12-man league, which is kind of the default for most leagues, I feel like that is a starting quarterback. He's
Yep.
going to be a starter on your team. So he has Lad McConkey broke onto the scene, the rookie wide receiver last year. I expect him to be even better, and I expect Herbert to be just as good because of that. And you have some help in the running back room. Marion Hampton coming in as a rookie out of UNC, and then you got
UNC.
UNC, and then you got Najee Harris coming over. So running back room is kind of an interesting new look for them. So I expect the Chargers offense to be very good as it was last year, and for Justin Herbert to also be very good as a pretty solid late round play for your starting quarterback. So
Yeah,
let's
and I
jump into number 9.
Yeah, I think real quick, I think that the Chargers just overall take a bit of a step forward here this season. I know, they still had a decent season last year, but I think, there were some things left on the table when you're looking back at that year. So, maybe they take another win or two forward, and I think that just propels Justin Herbert into a better ranking with that.
Yeah.
Obviously, um, there's a lot of good players that we're going to have on this list. Unfortunately, Herbert did not make my list, but falling in at number 10 for you, I have no problem with that at all. So, moving into the number 9 slots, I'm going to go ahead and start things off with Baker Mayfield. Okay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneer quarterback. I think we can all agree that that was kind of a career year for him last year. Finished fourth in fantasy points. That sounds crazy to say, right? You hear Baker Mayfield and you hear, just a great personality on the field. One of the guys you love to watch. You just cheer him on no matter what, even if he's playing your team. He's just a good guy to root for, right? But really, fourth place for quarterbacks in fantasy last year, not a spot you would have expected him to finish, right? Especially, you know, with the up and down career that he's had. He's never really had this standout performance like he did a season ago. And, he's got that rushing upside now that we just saw last season. He had 378 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. It might not be crazy, but for a guy that we typically thought of as a guy who's just going to drop back and throw the ball a ton, getting in those extra points on the ground is huge when you're talking about a fantasy perspective. Uh, Team drafted Emeka Egbuka, right? So a wide receiver out of Ohio State. That only adds to what is a stacked wide receiver room already when you talk about Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, even McMillan, who had a solid rookie season. And then, the one thing I will say with this team, which is only going to affect them at the start, left tackle Tristan Wirfs, their star offensive lineman. He is expected to start the season on the PUP list, which means he has to miss the first 4 games of the season. So obviously, protecting the quarterback's blind spot, that is a big loss for them, but I do not think it will hurt them, you know, that much. Maybe, he struggles week 1 out of the gate, but as soon as they get a guy out there who can at least handle himself a little bit, I think Baker Mayfield and the Bucks will be just fine.
All right. My number 9, we've already talked about him a little bit, so I won't go too in depth. It's Kyler Murray. And I will say I think Kyler Murray is a really good fantasy option. He is kind of the same mold of a player as a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels type, but not as good.
Yep.
But he does
Not
have
at all.
that
Not even
rushing
close.
ability. Not even close. Not even close. But no, he is good. He's a good quarterback though. Kyler Murray, I do expect to have a solid year with the Arizona Cardinals, an offense last year that I think overperformed or not overperformed, exceeded expectations as they were pretty solid. And I like Kyler Murray to be just like Herbert, another pretty valuable pick in the mid to late rounds for your fantasy team, especially in deeper leagues. I think Murray can be one of those guys that can really help you in fantasy football this year. And a lot of people might be overlooking him, especially with that rushing ability. He's going to get in the end zone on the ground quite a lot. So I like Kyler Murray this year. Let's move on. Connor, by the way, we're going to have a new segment. It's going to be called Check If We're Recording after every pick.
We are recording. We are recording
All
still.
right.
We're good. We're good. And I will say
We
about
are.
Kyler Murray, real quick. Real quick. Um, we were talking. Okay.
We're in business.
Sorry. I know you wanted to get your moment there. He's got these little sound effects that he loves using, so be ready for those throughout the recording today. But Kyler Murray, I think he's one of those guys that, like you said, maybe overlooked a little bit, and maybe we're placing him correctly at 9 and 10. But with that rushing upside, who knows, man? Maybe he has a top 5 season just because he just balls out. He has that type of ability where I think him more than Justin Herbert. I think Murray could be a guy that can get into that top 5 this season if everything were to go perfectly for him. But
All right.
with that said, we are recording. Let's move on to our 8th ranked quarterbacks for this season. My guy's Bo Nix, the Denver Broncos quarterback. My Oregon Duck already had one duck on this recording with Herbert. Now we got Bo Nix, the more recent quarterback. Phenomenal rookie campaign. All right, second best rookie QB season last year, only behind Jaden Daniels, of course. The rushing upside is there, more than Baker Mayfield, especially, but not as much as Kyler Murray, kind of in the middle there. 430 rushing yards a year ago with 4 rushing touchdowns. I think the offense only got better, adding a tight end in Evan Ingram, a guy who's proven himself to be, one of the better tight ends in the league. And then they also signed J.K. Dobbins. All right. We talked about the Chargers running back situation. Now we're talking about the Broncos, where, J.K. Dobbins goes from Los Angeles to Denver, staying in the AFC, of course. And they also drafted a running back by the name of RJ Harvey, a guy that a lot of people are very high on this season. So, you know, when you talk about the team from an offensive perspective, I think the offense is only going to be better, which means the quarterback is going to have more opportunities to find the end zone, to move the ball down the field, rack up points through yardage, rushing, everything. So that's why I have Bo Nix at 8, maybe a little higher than some people would have expected, maybe over a guy like Baker Mayfield or something. But I have a lot of faith in this guy, and that's why he falls in at the number 8 spot.
All right. So by the way, all of these rankings are your standard scoring format, which is 4 points per passing touchdown, 6 points per receiving and rushing touchdown. Just wanted to throw that out there. Coming in at my number 8, we have probably my first hot take out of a few on this list. We have Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes coming in definitely a little bit lower than I initially thought he would be here, but
It's a big name, Vinny,
this
big
is
name.
it's a big name, Pat Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes is the main reason why we preface that this is a fantasy football countdown, not just a general football list, because Patrick Mahomes is obviously one of the most successful and one of the greatest quarterbacks. You're already putting him into that echelon
Oh,
of great
100%.
quarterbacks
Yeah.
in NFL history. Okay. A ton of accolades and just an elite quarterback in the league. For fantasy purposes, though, I do not like Patrick Mahomes that much this year because we saw last year he was actually 12th. He was QB 12 in the rankings in 2024, which is really low for a guy like Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
He has a lot of weapons around him. I just think the thing with the Chiefs is they were in a lot of defensive games last year. They were kind of fighting for wins. They obviously were really good. They were in the Super Bowl, but they were fighting for wins. They were not playing the same style of Chiefs football of just dominance that we've seen in the past. I don't know if that's going to be the same this year. This is why this is all speculative, but Patrick Mahomes, I will put at 8. It might be a little generous even considering he was QB 12 last year. So I think this is a guy that some more casual fantasy football players are going to take him really high. You could see him going in the 4th round, maybe even the 3rd round. Stay away from Patrick Mahomes. If he's available in the 6th or 7th round, that's good value. 5th, maybe even the 5th round. 3rd or 4th round, Patrick Mahomes, I'm staying far away from him in 2025. That is my take
Yep.
on
Hey,
Mahomes there.
I don't hate it at all. All right. I disagree a little bit, obviously, with me not having him at 8, but you know, we'll see in a little bit. He's not too much further up my board. But for now, moving on to number 7, it is a guy by the name of Dak Prescott. Kind of my hot take here, of my board. I mean, a guy who a lot of people probably aren't even considering. This is a guy who didn't play very much last season with the injuries, and now this year he's got CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens both healthy. I think George Pickens, that signing for them, it's not as big as people might think initially. I still think CeeDee Lamb is the guy in Dallas, and I think Dak's going to go right back to feeding him the football. But, having George Pickens as a wide receiver too is incredible. I mean, he's a stud. He might be, some drama on the field, off the field, but at the end of the day, he's a very good wide receiver in the NFL. I think that only helps Dak Prescott in this Dallas Cowboys offense. And I do think that the Cowboys are going to have a lot of games where they're going to be having to throw the ball. We see it a lot of the time with these Cowboys teams. They're throwing the ball 30 to 40 times because they're trailing or it's a shootout. And I think that's going to be the case this year. And I think if Dak can stay healthy, he's going to have a very, very good performance. When he plays a full season, I mean, we saw it in 2023. He finished 3rd in quarterback fantasy points. And in 2019, he finished 2nd, right? But the problem is, I could only give you 2 years there, 4 years apart. That's the problem with Dak Prescott is the health. He does not have it on a consistent basis. He tends to get knocked up. And it's just, it's a, I don't want to say risky because obviously you go into every season with risk with any player of an injury. But, you just got to be a little bit wary here about the fact that he does get injured so much. And it's very rare for him to complete a full season. But again, if he finishes the full season, I would not be surprised if Dak is a top 10, top 7 quarterback here in the NFL.
Yeah, Connor, I won't lie to you. I mean, Dak Prescott wasn't even on my board. I didn't even think about him. I even had some honorable mentions here. And we're laughing because I said this exact same thing already not too long ago. But no, Dak Prescott wasn't on my board. But you know what? It's a blessing in disguise that we're recording again because we didn't even bring up George Pickens last time. That's a big
I
deal.
know. I
How
know.
could you not bring up a guy like George
Good.
Pickens? Um,
So many
so
things going wrong today, but hey, we're here now. We're making it right.
this is it. This is the final draft, as they like to say. George Pickens is a big factor there, and I do see a world where Dak Prescott could be a top 10 quarterback. And I probably should have thought about him. I probably should have thought about him. Because he produces a lot of fantasy points over there. Um, okay, my number 7 here, another kind of controversial pick. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts, and
Okay.
Jalen
Okay.
Hurts is not a bad fantasy option at all. I think he's actually really good, but there's one factor that makes Jalen Hurts not that appealing to me in 2025, and that is Saquon Barkley. So we saw in 2024 that the Eagles really shied away from passing the football. They relied on Saquon Barkley and the run game a tremendous amount en route to a Super Bowl. And Jalen Hurts had a great Super Bowl. Let's not get that wrong there, but there were many games where Jalen Hurts was passing the ball under 20 times, throwing under 200 yards in a lot of games. And, you know, some of his receivers weren't very happy about that. And Jalen Hurts just doesn't pass the football a lot. He does have a lot of upside in rushing touchdowns, the tush push, which we touched on earlier.
Dude,
Um,
don't get me
I know
started on the touch push again, man. I don't even want to go
we
into it
don't.
because it
No,
because it,
no,
it makes me so mad. But it's just like
yeah,
it's annoying, but it's cool because they're the only team that can do it, right? The Packers, I'm a Packers fan. They tried to ban it, didn't work. Enough teams said they wanted to keep it. Whatever. Okay, you guys can deal with it. But the Eagles are the only team that can do it successfully every single time. Near perfect conversion rate. Any other team, it's just they're nowhere close. It's a hit or miss, 50-50 chance. With the Eagles, it's basically a 100% chance, and that's why it is so annoying. But at the same time, it makes it cool. Double-edged sword there. But at the end of the day, that's just what the Eagles are, man. The tush push.
yeah. There's only two types of people in this world that like the tush push:
Well, let
Eagles
me hear this.
fans,
Okay.
Eagles fans, and Jalen Hurts fantasy managers.
Yep.
Those are the only
Hey,
two. Because
no one
Jalen
else
Hurts,
likes
I
it. No
mean,
one else. Literally,
I
no one
can
else.
assure you that Saquon Barkley fantasy managers hate it
Oh,
unless you
100%
have them on the same team.
on the goal line.
But
Like, come on.
on the yeah, no one likes to see that. But hey, Jalen Hurts, that is a big part of his upside. And like I said already, I don't think Jalen Hurts or his floor is low. I think he has a high floor. I think he's going to be consistent just because of that touch push. He's good for almost one a game. So he's going to get in the end zone. But I also don't think his ceiling is very high. I don't think he's a guy that's going to put up 25, 30 points on a consistent basis, which is what you want in a quarterback. So he falls in my number 7.
Hey, I'll say this: Saquon Barkley on the Madden cover. So the curse could happen.
Oh,
He could have an
you're
absolutely
right.
horrendous season, but people have fun with that sometimes. But
We
just throwing it
we
out there.
don't wish that upon Saquon Barkley,
No,
but
I mean
we're just saying it's
I
a
love
possibility.
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
I I used to hate it when he was
I
on the
love him.
Giants because I don't like the
Yeah.
Giants. But now he's on the Eagles. He's amazing.
I love him even more that he's not in a Giants uniform, but
Exactly, exactly.
that's what we're on the same page there. Okay.
If you haven't noticed, if you didn't listen to our previous 41 episodes, we are not the biggest Giants fans
No,
on
we
on
hate
this
the Giants.
podcast. We despise them. I know, hate's a strong word, but we despise them. We hate them. Sorry, I'll
I, I
we can say hate. We can say hate.
I feel like despise is a stronger word than hate. Almost.
Coming in at number 6 on my list, Patrick Mahomes. All right, going back to the controversy that you had there, putting him at 8. Like I said, I didn't have him much further up my board. The Kansas City Chiefs quarterback here, bad year last season. All right, and I'm gonna
Bad
play the
year.
blame game. I'm gonna throw it on the Rashi Rice injury, the Isaiah Pacheco injury. People don't talk about it enough, but when a starting running back goes down for a team, you might not think of it messing up your fantasy quarterback, but it just messes up the rhythm. The offense loses its flow. You already lost your wide receiver one. Now you lose your running back one. It's like, where are we going to get this production? Xavier Worthy, he hadn't been playing in the slot yet, didn't really have his spot in the offense, so to speak. So the Chiefs were really struggling to find ways to move the ball. And like you said, a lot of close games, a lot that they probably should have lost. A lot of people would argue that. And at the end of the day, it just wasn't a good year. However, hey, Rashi Rice is going to be back. He's going to be healthy. Isaiah Pacheco, he's going to be back. He's going to be healthy. I think the Chiefs can get back to, somewhat normal of what we're used to. Obviously, Mahomes has not been the same without Tyreek Hill. Everyone who's watched football can see that. Okay, he's still a fantastic quarterback, but when it comes to fantasy, okay, Tyreek Hill put him into a different world. I mean, that duo was just ridiculous. I don't even know how that was allowed. There probably should have been like a law against it. Vinny, I don't know how you feel about that, but that was just overpowered. It was basically a cheat
Yeah,
code.
yeah, it was utterly ridiculous in my opinion.
Loved to watch it. Loved if you had Tyreek Hill or Patrick Mahomes on your fantasy team. But
I never did, so I hated it.
last year when I had Mahomes on my fantasy team, there was no Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill was getting arrested on the side of the street in Miami before a game. I mean, what are we doing? Like whatever. Anyways, Patrick Mahomes comes in
Fine.
at 6, and I
All
just
right.
think he's gonna be a little bit better.
I almost don't know if I'm in a good mental spot to even talk about the rest of this list at this point. Um, no, run it up. Give me my number 6, okay? Bo
All right,
Nix.
Bo Nix, man.
The
Bo Nix, baby, the duck.
Duck, the sophomore quarterback in Denver, and you already talked about him a little bit, but I love Bo Nix in 2025. We obviously have seen sophomore slumps before. You can never assume that's going to happen. I think Bo Nix is going to be even better. I had him on both my fantasy teams in 2024 and absolutely loved him. I mean, he always surprised me. He was on my bench for most of the year just because you never know when he's a rookie. You never know when he's going to have a bad week. He never had a bad week. I mean, Bo Nix, I think maybe the first 2 weeks were pretty rough. And then I remember week 3 in Tampa, they played Tampa and they upset the Buccaneers and Bo Nix had a great week and he never looked back after that.
Oh,
So he has that rushing upside that you want in a fantasy quarterback. He could sling the football. He has Cortland Sutton, who broke onto the scene last year. He's been in Denver for almost
a
as long as I've
while.
been watching football. Okay. But he finally had a great year with the new QB, and things are looking really good in Denver. Fantasy football aside, I just really like the vibes over there.
Yep.
And when you go into your fantasy draft, you got to think about the vibes, man.
Dude,
So give me Bo Nix
it almost
to
matters
have
more than the performance.
it almost does. So give me Bo Nix to have a really good year. And again, I think he's a guy that you can get in a mid to late round, maybe not late round, but we'll say a mid round.
Yeah.
That you're really gonna like the value. If you really, a lot of fantasy managers go in the draft wanting running backs and wide receivers first 6 rounds, then they take their quarterback. I think Bo Nix is an option at that point
Yeah.
that you'll be able to get. So
And
take advantage of that.
and we talk about, one last thing. We talk about floors and ceilings with some of these guys. And the one thing with Bo Nix, okay, I think he has a lower floor than some of the other guys behind him. Because, there is that
Yeah,
potential for the sophomore slump. I think Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, I think they have a higher floor. I think they might be a little safer, so to speak. But I think Bo Nix just has a higher ceiling. I think if we saw what he did last year, if he can build on that even just a little bit, he's returning value at this sixth best quarterback spot. So, I mean,
yeah,
I like the spot here for him. I think, being in Denver, having the offense improve a little bit. I talked about him a little bit at 8. I think he's going to have a very good season. I'm rooting for him as an Oregon Duck fan. I think he is hopefully going to pan out in the NFL, be a career-long quarterback. He's already got that age, a little bit older than some of the other guys he was drafted with. But, you know, putting him at 6, I have him at 8. Love the guy. Best of luck to him. Go Broncos, man. Broncos country. Let's ride, huh?
one of my favorite teams, to be honest with you.
Oh my
One of my
goodness.
many favorite teams. Okay, let's get into this top 5. Okay,
Dude,
I'm fed
this
up.
is what we're all waiting for. This is what we're all here
This
for.
is
The
what we're
top 5.
all waiting for. The top 5.
Starting off with my number 5 fantasy quarterback predicted for the 2025 NFL season. Again, I'm going to delay this a little bit, make you guys wait a little bit. This is all, obviously, we're not even to the preseason yet. Things can change, injuries can happen, bad things can happen to good people. And it's life, right? So this is all based on what we have to go off of so far. We want to make this interesting for you guys. Get it out early so that you have something to go off. Maybe you have an early fantasy draft, something like that. But without further ado, my number 5 guy, Jaden Daniels, Washington Commanders quarterback. One of the best rookie seasons we have seen in a while from a rookie quarterback. After the first couple of weeks, I mean, him and Terry McLaurin, they just connected. They were like bread and butter. It was just a duo that you cannot look away from. At the start of
Like
the season,
Burger King chicken fries and buffalo sauce.
dude, Burger King chicken fries and buffalo sauce. If you know, you know. All right,
As Connor's go-to
it's a
meal.
combo that you cannot turn down. Okay, it
Yeah,
just happens.
that's
Once it happens, sparks fly, man, and the rest is history. And that's what happened
that's
with Jaden
Jaden
Daniels
Daniels and yep,
and Terry
yep.
McLaurin, man. Scary Terry. They just found each other, and it was awesome to watch him play. Every single time you turned on that game, it seemed like there was a 60-yard pass going to Terry McLaurin for a big catch. So love that. He absolutely airs the ball out. And we haven't even talked about his
Yeah.
elite rushing upside yet. I mean, we're going to continue to hammer this. I mean, for any fantasy quarterback conversation, you want the quarterbacks that have the rushing upside. And Jaden Daniels, 891 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns in his rookie campaign. This number might even go up next year. Maybe he's an 1,000-yard rusher. Who knows, right? He has the ability to do that. And I think that's why he is so valuable here. Maybe even I have him a spot or two too low. It's tough because, like we said, we talk about the rookie quarterbacks going into their sophomore year. The slump is very possible. We haven't talked about CJ Stroud on this list because he had his sophomore slump last year. And, we talk about the injuries with them. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. He had a very, very, just bad luck in general with the wide receiver room. But at the end of the day, he did not perform nearly as well as he needed to back up that incredible rookie campaign. So I'm hoping the same does not happen to Jaden Daniels. I hope, he outperforms this ranking, which is very possible. But just for the sake of that, I do have him here at 5.
All right. Moving on to my number 5 is another pretty hot take, but give me Baker Mayfield, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback. And he had just a great season, just blew the expectations out of the water last year, Connor. Baker Mayfield was so fun to watch. You already brought him up. He was number 9 on your list. What if I told you he was QB4 in 2024? Fourth most fantasy points out of all quarterbacks. Just really amazing stuff
It
from
doesn't
Baker
sound
Mayfield.
real.
And it
Like
doesn't sound
when
real.
you hear that in your head QB4 and you process it for a second,
Yeah.
it's like, wait, that's the same Baker Mayfield that was like struggling in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like
I
it just
mean,
doesn't. I mean, props to him for turning his career around, honestly. But
props to him. The guy
it
was on
just
the
doesn't seem
Panthers,
like it's.
man.
That's what I'm saying. Dude.
Guy was
He
on
was
the
a no.
Rams, bro.
He's been around.
He's been around the block, but he's found his home as the successor, the greatest quarterback in NFL history, Tom Brady. If you guys could see, I have a vintage throwback Tom Brady jersey on the wall since we have visuals now. You guys can probably barely see that, but back to Baker Mayfield, he is nowhere near as good as Tom Brady was. But
Here, Vinny, wait,
he
go
is
back, go back. What are you trying to show? We're going to the Vinny cam. The Vinny cam. Yep. We can see it there. We can see it there. Yep, we see it. All right,
you can't see
beautiful.
it that well, but okay. Baker Mayfield Baker Mayfield is really good. And he has, in my opinion, the best wide receiver room in the NFL. That is up for debate. We'll talk more about that. We're going to be doing team previews, by the way, where we're going to be doing in-depth previews of all 32 NFL teams. That's going to be in August, so stay tuned for that. But I think the Buccaneers have the best wide receiver room in the NFL. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You have McMillan, who broke onto the scene last year. Really, really good receiver. Wide receiver 3. I mean, he might be the 2, arguably. And then you draft Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. So, I mean, you have a 4-headed monster.
Yeah.
And then you have a running back room of Bucky Irving, who broke onto the scene last year. The offense is just so good.
Yep.
And Baker Mayfield is going to profit off of that insanely good offense. He's just going to sling the football, pick up a ton of yards, throw a ton of touchdowns. And he's a guy you want on your fantasy team. So
And he's a
draft
fan
Baker
favorite.
Mayfield.
We talk about
Fan
vibes.
favorite.
I mean, that guy's got
Vibes.
more vibes than anyone on this list.
I love the vibes in Tampa. I love the vibes with Baker. I
Watching
really
that guy
do.
last year just run through 3 guys, stiff arming
Yeah,
guys to get in the end zone. It was awesome. I mean, we haven't really,
he's phenomenal.
we knew he had that in him. We never really saw it. We finally saw it last year, and I think that's why so many people are, excited for what he can do here in 2025.
Yeah, draft Baker Mayfield. I mean, he's
Definitely
going to be
draft him.
available in the mid rounds. You just
Yep.
know he is. He's not
Yep.
an upper tier guy in most people's minds. I'm telling you, Baker Mayfield is going to fly under the radar. Draft him in your drafts. He's going to help you win a league.
All right,
That's
so
what I got
moving
to say.
on to our 4 spots here. Starting off with mine, it's going to be the guy Joe Burrow. All right, this guy has had a rough go. All right, and obviously, got to a Super Bowl. Okay, but last year was an absolute nightmare. Okay, the defense was some of the
Oh, here
worst
we go.
defense we have ever seen. Okay, and let me tell you
So bad.
what changes they made to that. All right, haven't re-signed Trey Hendrickson. Drafted a rookie defensive end in the second or third round. Shamar Stewart has not signed. I mean, the offense or the defense was in the bottom of the barrel like last year, right? And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
the barrel's 5 miles back on I-91. All right, I don't even think that's a thing, but I see whatever it is. All right, You get the point. On the highway, it's 5 miles back. They're not even in the barrel anymore. The barrel was nowhere in sight. That's how bad they are. So what does that mean for Joe Burrow? Well,
Barrel's gone.
let me break it down for you. All right, barrel's gone.
Break it down.
Joe Burrow's still there. Jamar Chase still there. T. Higgins still there. Chase Brown still there. Dogs. All right, dogs.
All
He's
dogs.
he's gonna air the ball out. Let me tell you that.
Yeah,
All right, this
100%.
man, third in fantasy points a season ago, 652 pass attempts in 2024. Now, when I say that number, if you're not like sure, like what the normal amount is, the second closest quarterback for pass attempts had 584, 68
Yeah.
pass attempts fewer than Joe Burrow. And that was Aaron Rodgers, not a guy that's going to be on this list, unless one of us have him in the top 3 or 4, which I'll be honest, I do not.
Not on my list.
No, okay. Well, that does
Spoiler
that.
alert.
So that tells the tale right there. Joe Burrow is going to air the ball out. They're going to be losing in a lot of games, a lot of high-scoring shootouts. We saw it last year where they had multiple games in the 40-point range. He's going to be throwing the ball 40-plus times. I mean, I don't know. I just don't see a world where he doesn't repeat this same type of season that he had a year ago. Because, like I said, the barrel's 5 miles back. All right, the defense is just not up to par. Let's just put it that way. All right, the barrel's gone. Defense sucks. Joe Burrow, it's all on you, buddy.
All on you. Let's talk about my number 4 now, and it's Joe Burrow. Just talked about Joe Burrow, so we're in sync here today.
Where's the barrel for you? That's what the fans want to know.
Listen. The barrel. If we're driving down I-91, the barrel is all the way back at Western New England. By the way, that's where we go to school, which is pretty far away. So, hey, shout out Golden Bears. I haven't given the Golden Bears a shout out on the pod, I don't think, in 42 episodes. So
I don't think we have. So shout out Golden Bears.
yeah,
lot of great
shout out
athletes
the Golden
over there.
Bears. Well, I mean, I was just talking about the school in general, but yeah, I mean, athletes, yeah, they're cool too. We know a few of them.
Happen to live with some of them.
Live with some of them. Connor, you used to be one.
I used to be a Golden Bear. Well, I guess we're still Golden Bears. But
A
I used to be
Golden Bear
Golden Bear athlete.
Yeah.
Had to give it up. Had to hang him up.
Had to give it up to pursue his podcasting career.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What's better than this? Talking about football at 9:50 on a Monday night.
Yep.
After 3 hours of pain.
Okay, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals quarterback. Listen, you literally said it all, so I don't have to say too much. But when the defense is as bad as it is, you're going to benefit from it from a fantasy perspective because you're going to be throwing the ball a lot.
Yep.
And that's all I have to say. He has an amazing wide receiver core there, and Joe Burrow is an amazing quarterback. And I wish that he had a better situation personally for him. I feel bad for him a lot. I actually felt like tremendously bad for him every single week last year. I mean, the New England Patriots beat them in week 1. Like my New England Patriots, 2024, Jacoby Brissett.
That ruined my
Joe
survivor pool.
Ruined a lot of people's survivor pools.
Not you,
I
though.
didn't. I mean, why would I pick against my team in week 1? Joe Burrow, number 4. Obviously, he's going to be on the top of a lot of draft boards, so you want him in those early rounds.
If you can get that stack with Jamar Chase, more power to you. So that's going to be dangerous.
Best stack in the game, in my opinion.
All right. Moving on to top 3. Top 3. Vinny, can I get a drum roll?
Oh, you can get a drum roll.
I want a drum roll so bad.
We actually could do it. Oh wait, that was not a drum roll. We don't have.
we don't have a drum roll. What? Can you play that again then?
Yeah,
there's a dog. Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts?
I don't know what happened.
Jalen Hurts.
I don't know what happened to the drum
Hurts.
roll. But there was a dog that just quacked in my ear, and now we got Jalen Hurts. If only this was, we should have played that for Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, but whatever.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Well, two great minds think alike. Jalen Hurts is number 3. Yep. I mean, 14 rushing touchdowns a season ago. I know you talked about him a little bit already, so I won't go too in depth. But my thing with him, right? He had, like I just said, 14 rushing touchdowns with Saquon Barkley there. Threw the ball as little as you probably could and still win a Super Bowl. I think, we talk about Joe Burrow having like 6 40-plus pass attempt games. I think Jalen Hurts probably had more than that with games where he threw less than 18 times. So you don't see it very often nowadays in the NFL when this is such a, a high flying offensive league, but I think this is the year where we see Jalen Hurts kind of come into his own here with the passing. I know we've seen it before where he's a very good passer. Once you bring Saquon in, he kind of took over. And I think defenses are going to hone in on that. And they're going to say, okay, you know what? Let's force Jalen Hurts to make something happen in the air. Let's shut down Saquon Barkley, limit the run as much as possible. And I think it's going to cause Jalen Hurts to throw the ball. He's got A.J. Brown. He's got Devonta Smith, right? Why not use them? Two of the best receivers in the NFL. I mean, go out there, sling the ball. Even if you're only throwing it 20, 25 times, it's going to be a better performance than it was a season ago. And I think for that reason, including that rushing upside, I think he's going to be a top 3 quarterback in fantasy this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument for it for sure. Obviously, I had him down at my 7 spot, so I do disagree slightly. Like I told you, I think his floor is very high. I don't think you're going to get very many bad weeks from Jalen Hurts, but I don't see the potential with Saquon there for him to put up those big numbers
Yep.
in Philly. But still a really good option for you in your fantasy draft if you want just a consistent guy at the quarterback position. Who wouldn't want that, right?
Who wouldn't want that? I mean, come on, let's be
Who
real.
wouldn't want it? I'll tell you a guy I would rather have though. My number 3, me Josh Allen. Another hot take. You know, pretty surprising not having him higher than this. Josh Allen was QB2 in 2024, and I don't think he's going to get worse. That's not what I'm saying here. I think he's going to be just as good as he was. This is more of a guy I have ahead of him. I think is going to take that leap forward. But Josh Allen is still an elite fantasy quarterback. My top 3, I know they're all interchangeable. Okay, they're all interchangeable in my mind. I think any of the top 3 guys on my list can be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy and are the best value pick or best pick for a quarterback in your fantasy draft. So Josh Allen is a great pick. He has Khalil Shakir there. He broke out last year as the wide receiver 1. He's a very reliable guy on that team. But Josh Allen is a guy who's going to do it all on his own. He's going to get the rushing touchdowns. He's going to get a lot of yards on the ground, a lot of yards through the air. He really limited the turnovers last year too, which was kind of a big story. He was very, very prone to the interception in his career before last year. So if he can keep that up again, he will be an elite option for you in a really great Buffalo Bills offense. So, yeah, Josh Allen's a great pick. And
One thing, Vinny.
Yes, Connor.
You say the word interchangeable,
Oh, here we go.
and all I'm seeing on this list is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And 1 and 2 are still blank. And there's a big fat number 3 next to Josh Allen's name. So you say interchangeable.
Yeah.
But is it really interchangeable or do you have him at 3?
I mean, it's interchangeable in the sense where I'm putting it out there that I can see any of my top 3 quarterbacks being number 1. I'm not saying that they're all the same. I'm just saying that I can see a world. I'm trying to like do damage control because I know people are going to be mad that Josh Allen is number 3. So I'm saying that Josh Allen could be number 1. Like there's a world where that happens.
Hey,
It's very easy.
I just think, the world deserved that
This is what I
explanation.
think.
So I figured I'd bring it up, just to make sure that we were on the same page because that's where I thought you were going, but had to make sure for the listeners out there and the viewers.
Connor, thank you for that.
You're welcome, man. I got your back, dude.
Okay.
You got my back. I got yours. All right. That's a big saying around here.
We do like that saying.
All right.
I'm gonna get emotional.
Do you need water?
I have plenty of water. Don't worry.
All right.
I've refilled it like 5 times during this experience.
This endeavor. All right, moving on. We are down to our top 2 quarterbacks. And for me, I'm going with a guy who was first in fantasy points a season ago. It's Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens quarterback. I mean, what more is there to say? Okay, he's only had 1 season under 700 rushing yards in his career, and in that year he had 695 rushing yards. So I mean, come on, he's 5 away. Basically, give it to him at that point. So the rushing upside is just insane. He's had 1,000-yard rushing seasons. He's won MVPs. I mean, what more can you ask for? What more can you look for in a fantasy quarterback? He finally looked like a better passer this past season. Normally, we're only looking at him for his rushing ability. A lot of people would love to have him on the running back ranking list. Okay, but of course, he is a quarterback. So, we have to include him on this list. I don't know how I feel about that. But, Vinny, I know you agree with me. We did see some better passing from him a year ago, which I think makes him worthy of being on this list a little more than he has been in the past. But number 2, I think he slots in there perfectly. I think he's in a tier of his own with number 1 that I have on this list, which we'll get to in a couple minutes here. But Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens, go be great again. I think he's very, very safe. I think he's guaranteed to be a top 5 quarterback, top 3 quarterback, even unless he gets hurt. So that's where I have him. Number 2, Vinny. What about you, buddy?
Okay. My number 2 is another hot take on this list, probably my hottest take, scorching hot take. But I
Scorching
think
hot.
the
Wow.
scorching hot, the second best quarterback in fantasy football is going to be Jaden Daniels, Washington Commanders quarterback in his second year. And he was QB5 in his rookie year, which is already a
Very
massive
good.
accomplishment for
Very
a
good.
rookie.
Do we
Okay.
have like an applause? Can we get an applause for him?
Yeah. Yeah, we actually do. That's
There we go.
for
There we go.
Jane. That's for Jane Daniels
Yep.
there. Um, uh, listen, he was so good, and taking the fantasy aspect out of it, he led the Washington Commanders to the NFC Championship game and lost to the eventual world champion Eagles. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, Jaden Daniels, and listen, there are a lot of guys on the Commanders that definitely exceeded expectations and had great years and overperformed a bit. But the Commanders are nowhere near the team that they were in 2024 without the contributions from Jaden Daniels. He was so good last year, and I think there is still room to be better because he wasn't perfect. He still had a few really bad games here and there. He did have a stretch in the middle of the season. I know we talked about it. In the middle of the season, he had a stretch where he just wasn't as good. And I know in our league that we are in together, he was my starter, and you were giving me some crap about, oh, Jane Daniels, he's gonna gotta bench him soon. Oh, no. This guy was this Jane Daniels. I knew he was gonna come back. He
He was a
just had
stud.
such.
He was a stud.
He was a stud. Found that buffalo sauce to his chicken fries. Terry McLaurin. um, I won't bring up Debo Samuel again because he looks like he's had a little bit too many chicken fries in this offseason. Um, but he's there. And Jaden Daniels, he's a one-man show. He does it all. He's going to
Yep.
get into the end zone on his legs. He's going to throw, and he's going to put up a lot of numbers. And I'm telling you, I think there's going to be a lot of guys that are drafted ahead of him that are not going to be as good. I think Burrow, I think Jalen Hurts, I think Patrick Mahomes. I think there's an argument that they're all going to be taken around the same spot or even higher than Jaden Daniels. And that is a mistake because you should be drafting Jaden Daniels in the first 3 quarterbacks at least in your fantasy drafts, in my opinion.
Yep. I love
So,
Jaden Daniels. I think he's gonna have a great year. I hope he has a great year. For me, it's the Washington Commanders. Can the Washington Commanders go be great again for a second straight season? I don't know. I don't have enough faith, not in him, but in the Commanders as a team, to go out there and do the same type of things they were doing this past year. I just think some of these guys above him, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, I just think they're going to be a little more consistent, and that's why I put him at 5. But Vinny, no problem with you putting him at 2. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for here, our number 1 fantasy quarterbacks for the 2025 season. I'm going to kick us off here. I think a lot of you looking at my list, you probably could have guessed it. He's going as the first quarterback off the board in many of the mock drafts out there right now. It's going to be the guy leading the way for the Buffalo Bills. It's Josh Allen. All right. Quarterback who has had 5 consecutive seasons finishing top 2 in fantasy points for quarterbacks. He's had double-digit rushing touchdowns the last 2 years, had 12 in 2024. I think that's going to continue to make it a third straight year of double-digit rushing touchdowns. The one thing you could say that's holding him back is the wide receiving core. All right. But at the end of the day, Vinny, you mentioned it. Found Khalil Shakir, found some other guys, Keon Coleman, hopefully takes a step forward to sophomore year. Hopefully the tight ends get a little more involved. Kincaid and Knox, there was a lot of
mhm.
hype around them being a very good tight end duo, and they kind of didn't do as much as people were expecting. Um, but you know what? At the end of the day, similar to what you said about Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen needs absolutely nobody. He is a one-man wrecking machine. He can run through 4 guys, jump over another guy at the same time, stiff arm someone with his other hand. He can just do it all. All right, he's that guy. He's him. I think Josh Allen is going to be number 1 quarterback in fantasy football, and I, I mean, I think he should be the first quarterback taken in many drafts.
Yeah, and I think he absolutely will be the first quarterback taken in most drafts. Um, but I'll tell you who I think should be the first quarterback taken off the board in your fantasy draft this year. It's Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Action Jackson,
Love it.
as I like to call him. He is an absolute stud, and he has been ever since he came into the league. And I mean, he's always been a very attractive fantasy prospect for me because of what he can do on the ground. But he has unlocked a whole new element of his game. He became a really good passer in 2024. Really, I think he is an above average passer in the NFL, which I could never say before about Lamar Jackson. And when you add that to his insane rushing upside, he is nearly a perfect fantasy quarterback if he is healthy. And say the same thing about Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels. You know, he doesn't need an insane wide receiving core around him to be a good performer in
Yep.
fantasy because he could do it all by himself. He does have Zay Flowers, who is really good. And he does have a guy by the name of DeAndre Hopkins coming in, who may or may not make an impact. Shout out my guy Shane Kendall. He said DeAndre Hopkins is the best wide receiver 3 in the NFL, which I have to respectfully disagree with that. Um, but DeAndre Hopkins is there.
Got the tight
Mark
ends.
An-
There's
Mark Andrews,
Likely.
Isaiah Likely, who um yeah, I picked him up off the waivers last year after his week
He
one, and
had
he
some good
absolutely
weeks.
he's a good tight end too, though. He's a good tight end
Yeah.
too.
If Mark Andrews
It,
goes down, he's a tight end one. That's just that's how it's been.
well, I mean, that would go the same with any tight end too if
No,
the
no,
tight
but
end
you
one.
know what I mean. Like, is the Packers tight end two going to
No,
be a
I get it.
startable
No, I
tight
get
end?
it.
No.
I get it. I get it. I understand what you mean. Sorry. So, not to
Please.
mention Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's there. So the Ravens offense is electric. Lamar Jackson is the
Shout
center of
out
it.
Keaton Mitchell. Love that
I
guy.
know you love that guy. I don't know why, but I mean, he's cool.
I'll take a quick trip down memory lane. 2023, our NFL season. I picked this guy, Keaton Mitchell. I draft him, like one of my last picks. He sits on my bench the entire season. And then like week, I don't know what week it was, a little before fantasy playoffs, he starts turning up, man. That boy
He
started
did.
balling. And I had this week where I needed him to get like 19 points. And it wasn't that crazy for him to do that. He was doing it in weeks previous. And if I got those 19 points, I would have won my game, made it to the fantasy playoffs. It was a rough year for me that year. But he goes out immediately. He catches like a 13-yard touchdown pass, lands in the end zone, and I think it was Achilles that he tore. He tore his Achilles. I could be wrong on the injury. Do not quote me on that injury, but he got hurt. He was done. And I mean, he still didn't even come back for most of last year. But needless to say, he got me like 10 points on that one play. I needed 9 more in 3 quarters, and he got hurt. He was out for the game. So I'll forever love that guy, Keaton Mitchell. Hopefully, he can make an impact this year. I know that's a random shout out to a guy that probably nobody knows, but hey, that's what we're all about here, shouting
I
out the
know
little
him.
guys.
Hey, hardcore fantasy football fans know who Keaton Mitchell is. Okay.
Exactly, man.
Um,
Show him some
you
love.
gotta know him. You gotta know him. But yeah, Lamar Jackson. What can you like you said? What more can you say? I mean, you know what you're getting with Lamar. He's gonna be a stud.
Yep.
I do think Josh Allen is going to be the number one quarterback off the board in most leagues. I think it should be Lamar before Josh Allen. But I think, like I said, you're fine with either of them or Jaden Daniels, and then to a lesser extent, Joe Burrow,
Yep.
Baker Mayfield. I'm fine with any of those guys starting on my team in 2025. So that's going to wrap up our countdown here, Connor. And now, before we sign off today, I think we definitely want to talk about a few guys that have been left off of both of our lists.
Yep.
We already mentioned CJ Stroud, who had the sophomore slump. We kind of explained why he's not on our list there. Um, Another guy, Jared Goff. He actually was the QB6 in 2024. He was the sixth most fantasy points in 2024, not on either of our lists. So, what is your thought process of leaving him off?
So for me, it was, when you think of his season in 2024, it was really good. Don't get me wrong, right? He had a very good season, but you think of his completion percentage. You think of how perfect he was throwing the football. There were games, I think there was a stretch where he didn't throw an incompletion for a game or two. And I don't know if you've watched it yet or any of our viewers out there, but the quarterback show on Netflix season 2 came out. Jared Goff's involved in that. And it was one of the early episodes. Dan Campbell, he was talking about how he gave the game ball to someone else, not knowing that Jared Goff was like 18 for 18 in that game. So Jared Goff was just that guy who would go out there, go 18 for 18, four passing touchdowns, and have a very solid fantasy stat line. And he did it week after week after week, where it wasn't anything that's like, whoa, like watch out, this is the best quarterback in the NFL. But from a fantasy perspective, he was basically perfect. And
Yeah,
however, I don't think first of all, I don't think that's something you can maintain, being that perfect. And I also don't think the Lions are going to be at the same caliber as they were last year. I think they're going to take some steps back in certain areas. The offensive line's going to get worse. The defense is going to get a little bit worse. So they're going to have to work on some things. And with that, I think Jared Goff is going to struggle a little bit more. Just because that's how it goes in the NFL. One season you can be perfect. Next season you're going to struggle a little more. That's just how it is. But that's my reasoning for it. Still think he's a very good quarterback, probably around there in the 11, 12, 13 mix. But that's my reasoning for why I left him off my list.
yeah. I mean, Jared Goff's not a top 10 quarterback. I mean, and I just don't see it. I know he was last year. I know he was number 6, but like I said, I can see a little bit of regression from the Lions this year. And I mean, they do rely a lot on their running game too. I mean, Jared Goff still getting 6th overall is kind of
Oh
crazy,
yeah.
even with that. Um, so yeah, he's left off. Stroud's left off. I mean, we talk about there's always a few rookies in the mix for fantasy at each position. This year for the quarterback position, it's very underwhelming. Obviously, we have Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick, going to be starting for the Titans, but I don't think he's anywhere close to our boards here. I don't know about you, but
No,
he's
it's
far off my
it's
board.
you look at some of the situations people are coming into. Um and before I even get into that, I mean, we talked about, off camera, Vinny, we've talked about it before. This quarterback draft class that we just had, it wasn't like these players were anything crazy, right? We mentioned
No,
it. If these players were in the draft class from last year, they're they're probably late first rounders to early second rounders, just because the talent that we had last year's draft was just so much better at the quarterback position. I mean,
yeah,
Cam Moore, don't get me wrong, all right, Heisman winner, props to you, very good quarterback, but he's going to a situation in Tennessee where quarterbacks tend to struggle. Okay, it's just for whatever reason. Okay, Tennessee just cannot build up these quarterbacks, and they have some running backs, Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard, they're going to be good, right? Wide receiver core, a little bit lackluster. Defense, expected it to be good last year. It was pretty solid, but are you going to be in a lot of games? Are you going to be having these long offensive drives where you're getting in the red zone consistently? I don't think so. And with that said, I mean, it's not a recipe for success for a fantasy quarterback.
no, it's definitely not. I do think he'll be. I think he's obviously going to be the best quarterback in my opinion out of the rookies, but fantasy perspective, definitely should stay away until at least you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Maybe on the waiver wire, but yeah. So that's pretty much the notable guys that were left off this list. Obviously, there's a few others that we could think of. Brock Purdy. I know we mentioned him last
True.
time in take one. Um, um, Brock Purdy is a guy that I can see being a good waiver wire pick or a bench guy just to replace your starter when he goes down, or maybe even in very deep leagues. Brock Purdy can be a starter, but not seeing much special there in the
Yeah.
Niners offense this year that you want to invest in that. Um,
So, hey,
so
real
yeah,
quick here, we're gonna
real quick.
let's throw back up the graphic here. Just run through these rankings again. I know you guys can see them, but for those who are audio only, I had Kyler Murray at 10, Baker Mayfield at 9, Bo Nix 8, Dak Prescott at 7. That was my one, hot take. Patrick Mahomes at 6, Jaden Daniels at 5, Joe Burrow at 4, Jalen Hurts at 3, Lamar at 2, and Josh Allen at 1. Vinny?
All right, my top 10 in order. We have Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray at 9, Patrick Mahomes at 8, Jalen Hurts at 7, Bo Nix at 6, Baker Mayfield at 5, Joe Burrow at 4, Josh Allen at 3, Jaden Daniels at 2, and Lamar Jackson coming in at number 1 for our fantasy football 2025 projections and rankings. And it is projections for a reason, man. It's all speculative. Fantasy football, people who study fantasy football like this, it is so hard
It's tough,
to
man.
say anything before the season starts because you just really don't know. It is, like I said, it's July 14th when we're filming this. We still have a whole preseason to go. A lot of guys are going to get injured. It's just how it is. A lot of roster moves are still to be made. You don't know what's going to happen. We have a lot of time until week one gets underway. So a lot can happen. These rankings can change dramatically. But as of right now, as of July 14th, 2025, these are our QB projections. And I think we did a pretty good job here.
Yeah, I mean, make sure to follow us on our platforms up above here on the screen: YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, or X, and TikTok as well. We will be making sure to, pump out a little more content than we did last year, really trying to get this thing going, get it off its feet here. And we're excited to be back with you guys. Obviously, a long ways to go here before the season starts, but that just means a lot of content coming out, previewing this 2025 season. Vinny, I'm excited for it, man.
I'm really excited. And hey, I mean, Connor and I have been texting back and forth for the past couple weeks, trying to think of ways to improve this podcast, to expand it, to hopefully get a little more viewership. And if you're one of the people who have listened to us for all 41 of our previous episodes, we appreciate you. Tell your friends, get them on board VinConn Sports Talk, because we're really excited to have this fantasy football content and a lot more content coming towards you. So, um, thank you for listening today. Thank you for joining us as we both lost our sanity slowly throughout this countdown. But that's going to wrap it up. So, again, thank you for listening. We're going to be back ranking running backs in our next episode. So, stay tuned for that.